Hello, everyone. This is Mirkala with the Clerk and Recorder's office. I handle communications. We'll go ahead and get started in probably about 1 to 2 minutes. Molly, I could see you are online. Can I see if your mic is working?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm gonna wait just another moment to get started. See a few folks tripling on. And while we're doing the presentation, if you have a question as we're going, feel free to drop it in the chat. And depending on the question, I may interrupt Molly and have her address the question, or we might hold the question to the end. But go ahead and use that Q&A functionality to put in any questions that might occur to you as we go. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to put Molly on screen for just a brief moment and okay, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Okay, great. Thanks, Marcella, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to get together with us and talk about what you are going to be experiencing over the next couple weeks as we process ballots and wrap up the election. Know that it's a busy time for many of you with your own get out the vote efforts, and we hope this presentation is helpful to you just to understand and manage your own expectations when it comes to results. So we'll go ahead and get started. And as Marcella said, feel free to drop questions in the chat. And we'll also ensure that there's plenty of time at the end for questions as well. We want to make sure that you feel really confident about what you can expect this election. So I'll go ahead and go off camera and we will jump into the presentation. Okay, so what we'll be covering, we will be covering information related to ballot processing, the election night reporting schedule, what ballots will be processed and counted after Election Day, which ballots won't be counted after Election Day, different recount scenarios in case contests are close, our post-election risk limiting audit, and information on watching. So a few ballot processing basics. We're fortunate in Colorado that ballot processing can start 15 days before an election. So what that means is that we are able to start the signature verification process. We are able to scan ballots well before Election Day. I want to make a big disclaimer that does not mean that reports are generated before Election Day, because reports aren't generated until election night. So we do start the scanning work early. And again, if you want to come in and watch that process, you are welcome to do that. From the beginning, we receive ballots and they are sorted into categories from the very beginning. They're sorted into two major categories. One is a category of accepted ballots. The second category is rejected ballots. Within the rejected ballots category, there are two subcategories. There's one set of ballots that voters can take an action to have their ballot move from rejected to accepted. However, there's also a category of ballots within rejected that there is no action the voter can take to move their ballot from rejected to accepted. So again, accepted ballots, and there's two categories of rejected ballots. There's kind of that temporary, but have an opportunity to that temporary rejected, but have an opportunity to cure their ballot in order for it to be processed and tabulated. Then there's the second category of there's nothing that the voter can do, that this ballot will not be counted. Accepted ballot envelopes. There are, here's the criteria for accepted ballot envelopes. The signature is verified. So we have bipartisan teams of election judges who look at every single signature on the mail ballot envelope. They're matching that signature to the voter registration record that we have, or the previous election signatures that we have on file for that voter. If they are able to make a match, that ballot is moved forward for the remainder of processing activities. The other requirements is that there's only one voted ballot in the envelope. The ballot has to be for this election, and yes, we have received ballots from prior elections. It has to be for this election. And once we accept that ballot, the voter is assigned vote credit in the Secretary of State's database, and that is when the voter receives their ballot track notification that we've received their ballot and that the ballot has been signature verified, identity has been confirmed, and it's moved forward for processing. Once we verify identity, the envelope is moved forward for other activities, including actually removing the ballot from its envelope. And that's where, again, you can come in and see this process for yourself if you like. We still have tours available. And then it is flattened. It's visually inspected for any problems. So if there's food on the ballot, that's not going to be able to be read through our scanning equipment. We have a process to ensure that the voter's intent is reflected on a ballot that can be run through the scanners. And then the ballot is scanned, and then the votes are captured in the voting system. But again, no reports are generated until Election Day. So that's at a high level for what we do with the accepted ballot envelopes. Okay, so again, two categories of rejected ballot envelopes. There's a subset of ballots that are initially rejected, but those ballots have the opportunity to still be counted. So the way it works is that voters have until 8 days after the election day to cure their ballot. So, even though we're going to post election night results on, starting at after 7 p.m. on Tuesday, there are still lots of ballots that have the opportunity to be counted. So if a voter turned in their ballot envelope and our bipartisan teams of election judges were not able to verify the signature, or the signature, or if there was a missing ID, a photocopy of their ID in with their ballot, we will send that voter a letter letting them know that we were not able to move their ballot forward yet, but if they take action and respond to our outreach, they can have their ballot move forward. So those voters, again, have until 8 days after the election to take action to have their vote move forward for processing. And again, there's a subcategory of ballots never counted, and we don't do anything with. So again, that's if there's more than one voted ballot in the envelope, if it's an empty envelope, or a ballot from a previous election. Election night reporting. So we know this is where a lot of you have interest in our timing and our schedule. And wondering where it is. So we will post the link on our election website, bouldercountyvotes.gov, late in the afternoon on the website. So if you're looking for it now, it is not there. It will be published starting on election day. We do not post results until after 7 p.m. Shortly after 7 p.m. is when the first posting will be. What you're going to see in that first posting is going to be everything counted through Monday. After that, the postings will have ballots that we received on Tuesday and in-person ballots. And so the reason for that is because we receive in Boulder County a lot of our ballots back on Tuesday. We receive a lot of those ballots back late in the day on Tuesday. So that first posting at 7 p.m. is going to have everything before Tuesday. We will be posting again on Wednesday, and typically we say over the next couple of days. But that being said, for a primary, we typically finish a bit faster because of a lower turnout, and also it's a one-card ballot, and it's on top of that, there's just one side to that ballot. So it is a pretty quick scanning, but we still, regardless of what type of an election is, there are 6-ish steps, 7 steps that a ballot envelope must go through in order, from the time of receipt to the time of tabulation. So this is our results posting schedule. Times are approximate. There are some times that we push a little bit after these times, and that's because we're coordinating with our scan room operators and they say, oh, if you give us, X more minutes, we're going to be able to include this many more ballots in with the posting. So that's why we like to say these times are approximate. We don't post more than this because it essentially means that if we were to post more, every activity would have to stop while we actually pull the reports. So by doing fewer postings, it means we can have more ballots and more results in those postings, especially as we get to election night. Another question that we get a lot is how many ballots do you have left to count? We have this information on our website, but we want to highlight it here as well. So we have our results page that we just went over, and that results page will say, this is how many ballots are reflected in these results. Use that number to compare against our ballots returned data. This data is on our website, and this data is updated every day at 7 a.m. And on election day, it's updated every 3 hours. And again, this represents how many ballots have been returned. So we'll continue to update this on Wednesday and Thursday to show how many ballots we have in-house. So this is really the best tool that folks have to compare, what we have received from ballot envelopes to what's been tabulated. And so you'll just do a manual review of those numbers to compare what's left to process. So the 8th and the 9th day after the election. So again, 8 days after the election is the deadline for voters to take action and respond to our outreach to rectify any issue that came up with their ballot envelope, such as a missing signature, such as missing ID in with their envelope if they were required to provide it, which is a small subset of voters. So everything needs to be in by the 8th day, and that includes military and overseas voters who mailed their ballot. They physically mailed their ballot back to us. Those voters have until 8 days after the election. Typically, a very small number of military and overseas voters return their ballot. There's very few of those ballot envelopes that we receive after election day, but they do have until 8 days after the election. Postmarks do not count. And that's for military and overseas voters. Foreign countries don't use them. And it's, that's why we have to have them in our hands by the 8th day. And for this election, the 8th day after election day is Wednesday, July 3rd. So everything needs to be in by Wednesday, July 3rd. Again, that's cures, military and overseas ballots. So what that means is we get everything on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, and this year, lucky us, it falls on July 4th, we will be scanning those ballots who were accepted on Thursday and posting our final set of results on Thursday. Okay, so again, there's the ballots that are definitely going to be counted within the 8 days after or on the 8th day after the election. And there's ballots that could potentially be counted. So it's always going to be somewhere in between that number. So what you see on election day or election night and the day after is going to shift the 9th day after the election, which is Thursday, July 4th. So we want to really manage expectations. The results that you see on Wednesday or Tuesday and Wednesday, election day and the day after election day is going to be different than it will be on July 4th. July 4th is when you're going to have the most updated, accurate number. Okay, so other ballots that are definitely going to be counted. So in Boulder County, and we value and hold that we have a constitutional obligation to protect voter anonymity. So for that reason, we always hold back 3 ballots per precinct district style to help preserve anonymity for anyone that is going to cure their ballot or mail in an overseas ballot. And that essentially allows us to blend ballot envelopes together. So someone couldn't, in theory, go and look at publicly available reports and compare it to who's outstanding and left to cure based on precinct level data. So this is a voter anonymity effort. And so this election, there's going to be at least 1,100 ballots that are going to be added on the 9th day to the vote total that you see. We also have voter information or protection ballots, which are VIPs. And so there are some areas in Boulder County where the district style within a precinct is so unique and that it has so few voters that we actually combine those different areas together to protect voter anonymity. Otherwise, there could be a scenario in which, you have 2 voters and one voter, had to return our paperwork in order to have their vote counted. So you basically could tie publicly available reports to who voted in these precincts. So for that reason, we hold or combine multiple district styles together in small areas. So this election is likely going to end up around 450 ballots will be added to the total on 9th day. And then manual process ballots, these are ballots that will also absolutely count, but it means that they've arrived to us so damaged that we need to take a manual process with these ballots. So typically it's if the envelope is so dirty or food stained or wet, if it's like weather related, something like that. And so those ballots typically are at least 500 or more in an election. So, if you do all this math, that's basically what at a minimum you'll be seeing added to the vote total on 9th day, which is July 4th. Okay, and we've already talked about this a little bit, but the potentially be counted military and overseas voters who are returning their ballots by mail, ballots that need to be cured, and voters have multiple options to cure their ballot. And if you're interested in the cure list, that process is outlined on our website and how to get that cure list, because we know many of you as candidates or campaign managers might be interested in that. The other ballots that will potentially be counted is if a ballot envelope was returned to another county clerk's office. So in Colorado, you can return your ballot to any drop box in the state. That county will ensure that the ballot envelope gets to its home office, but it will still go through the normal protocols of signature verification and if it's accepted, then it'll get moved forward. And if not, the voter will need to take action to cure their ballot. And then provisional ballots, fortunately, this is no longer a big aspect of outstanding ballots for us in Colorado because we have our election model. But this is going to be an extremely small, I think in the last couple of elections, we've had less than 2, and sometimes we haven't had any. So this will be a very, very small number.
Oops.
Okay, recounts. So I know no one is hoping for a recount. I know that adds a lot of stress to everyone's lives. So, but we have had recounts in Boulder County in the last couple of years, as late as 2023, actually, I think, and we had recounts in 2022. So the way that it works is we follow what's outlined in election law for recounts. And so what happens is the recount would occur. We would go through a normal protocol. We would certify the election results with our bipartisan canvass board. And our current date for doing that is July 11th. And a recount would be held if the difference between the highest number of votes cast in a contest and the next highest number of votes cast in that contest is less than or equal to 1/2% of the highest votes cast in that election. So we'll go through an example in just a second because I know that's an extremely wordy way to say it. But that would trigger an automatic recount. But if you want a recount that's outside of that threshold, you can submit a notarized written request by the 17th of July at the expense of the interested party making that request. And that goes to either our office or the secretary's office, depending on the contest. So that's how that process works. Oh, and the state has until July 19th to order an automatic recount based on the math and if it triggers an automatic recount. Okay, so for a 2-candidate race, this is an example of how the math works. So you can see candidate A had 5,034 votes. Candidate B had 5,065. So the difference between those two numbers is 31. So again, it's all about 1/2 of 1%. And so in this case, the difference was 0.6%. So no automatic recount is required. And you all will, we post these presentations on our website, so you can come back to this if you need to remember how to do this calculation, because again, I know it's kind of a wonky way to think about it, but that's how you do it. Okay, summary on post-election results. We get asked, or we used to get asked a lot, has this race been determined? Are you calling this race? We don't do that. That's something that the media does, and we do encourage them to wait until final unofficial results have been posted. What our role is to provide the public with the number of ballots that we have counted and what's left to count. Again, we can receive ballots through 11:59 p.m. on the 8th day, and then we'll do our final update on July 4th, which is the 9th day. And then again, we expect to certify election results with our bipartisan canvass board on July 11th, and that is open to the public if you'd like to come see how the bipartisan canvass board certifies the election by going through the different reports that we provide to them. Our risk limiting audit. So there's a lot of trust in Colorado elections, but we always like to highlight the risk limiting audit as the best tool that you have to understand that the election outcomes are correct. And so this is really considered the gold standard of audits because it's a statistically based audit, and we're the first state in the nation where it's fully operationalized, meaning that every county is doing it unless you're a hand count county. And so what the risk limiting audit does is it compares the physical paper ballot to the way the scanner read the ballot at the time of scanning. So as you all know, we vote on paper and we maintain all those paper ballots for 25 months as election records. So what happens is and Macaulay, you can go to the next slide. We have these paper ballots that are run through our scanning equipment. When these paper ballots are run through the equipment, there is you can see this example, there's ballot badge information added, and that includes when the ballot was scanned, date and time, and then it numbers the ballot. Basically, this is a unique identifier that is important for the risk limiting audit process. When the ballot is scanned, there's something called a cast vote record that's created. And the cast vote record, again, is it's a report that shows the way the voting system read that ballot at the time of scanning. And that's what we use to compare to the physical paper ballot before we certify the election. So after the election, we provide the cast vote record to the Secretary of State office. And then the Secretary of State's office uses software to randomly select ballots to audit. We have our bipartisan folks, as part of this process, observe the ballot polling process, and we compare the votes on those ballots, on those physical paper ballots, to the votes recorded on the cast vote record. And we report the information to the SOS, and the desired outcome is that it matches. And that's how we validate that the outcome is correct. Here are the dates. I'm not going to read them to you, but the one to note is that July 9th is when we're going to be doing that risk limiting audit. Again, open to the public. On July 11th, we have our canvass board meeting. And then yes, let's see. Yeah, those are the key dates, I would say. Watcher information. So watchers are an important part of our process. We welcome watchers into our environment. They help validate and attest to election activities. So if you're interested in being a watcher, this information is for you, and you're welcome to get in touch with our office or your political party chair. So at the beginning or your first time watching, You will need to be appointed by a candidate, political party, or issue committee to witness and verify how these election processes happen. And so for a primary, it would be from a candidate or a political party. You will be required to produce credentials. These are the 2 credentials that you'll need. The certificate of appointment and oath of watcher and watcher training course. And then once you're verified, you will be escorted to wherever you would like to watch election activities. And if you want to watch at a vote center, you can check in directly with the lead judge. So that's all we have. Just want to highlight these action steps, our social media channels. Please follow us. And if you haven't signed up for ballot tracks yet, please do. This is the tool that will let you know when we send your ballot, when we have received your ballot, and when we've signature verified your ballot. It's also how we would get in touch with you if you had an issue with your ballot envelope. We ask that you always include an email address with your voter registration record. We do send occasional emails during election time that have important information. We don't send a lot, so we do ask that you include your email in with your record. So with that being said, we will conclude there and open it up for any questions that folks have.
Okay, folks, if you want to drop your questions in the chat there or in the Q&A section, we'll give it 30 or 40 seconds to see if anyone has any questions. But if you haven't signed up for the tour, there's still plenty of space this Friday. And I believe off the top of my head, I think the tour is at 12:15 or 12:30. All these times are getting a little lost. And then again, Monday, I think at 2:30. We picked those times to try to get the most activity to be seen in our office. So, and if you can't make those tours, we'll be doing additional tours in the fall, but they probably will be more crowded in the fall. I will mention that. Well, I don't see any questions. We'll give about another 10 seconds or so. And if you think of something after the fact, feel free to email me and either I can answer it or Molly, I'll have Molly get back to you if I can't answer it. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and end there. Anything else, Molly?
No, thank you all so much. Just know that we're here if you have any questions that come up, and we look forward to supporting however we can. So no, thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.